My name is Natalie Lawson. I'm 41. Anthe, last time my family saw me, I was supposedly washing dishes in some diveber downtown. They had no idea I was running a federal task force that would eventually tear their perfect little world apart. It started 18 years ago when I walked out of my childhood home in suburban Phoenix with nothing but a duffel bag and a burning need to provide. Wrong. My mother had just finished explaining to the neighbors why her youngest daughter was taking a little break from college, her polite way of saying I dropped out after 2 semesters to join the ATF. My father hadn't even looked up from his newspaper when I announced my decision. My older sister, Monica, had laughed at that cruel laugh of hers and said, "Natalie always did love playing cops and robbers." That laugh haunted Muthro every grueling day at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center. It echoed in my ears during firearms training, tactical exercises, and thinless nights studying federal regulations. But it also fueled me. Every time he wanted to quit, I heard Monica's voice dismissing me as just another family failure, and I pushed harder. The years that followed were a blur of undercover operations, late-night stakeouts, and climbing the ranks within the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. I specialized in organized crime investigations, particularly those involving illegal weapons trafficking across state lines. My work took me from the streets of Detroit to the boardrooms of legitimate businesses that served as fronts for criminal enterprises, errand combinations, built a reputation for being thorough and relentless, and eventually found myself leading multi-agency task forces. But my family never knew any of this. To them, I had simply vanished into the void of disappointing life choices. For 18 years, I maintained minimal contact, birthday cards with no return address, a brief phone call each Christmas, where my mother would update me on Monica Sletter's achievements, her husband's promotion to regional sales manager, their daughter's acceptance to Stanford, their new house in the hills overlooking Scottsdale. I would listen politely and share nothing meaningful about my own life. When pressed, I'd mention working in security and leave it at that. Monica had followed the prescribed path perfectly. Business degree, marriage, to a successful man, children, and a lifestyle that looked pristine from the outside. She worked part-time at a non-profit, more for the social connections than any real passion for the cause. Her husband, Derek, ran what appeared to be a successful import business. They were the golden couple of me parents' social circle. Everything changed 6 months ago when Derek surfaced in one of Ori We'd been tracking a weapons trafficking ring that moved illegal firearms from manufacturers in Eastern Europe through a network of seemingly legitimate import companies. The operation was sophisticated, using established businesses as cover and exploiting gaps in documentation. Renters. Derek's company, Mountain West Imports, had been flagged by our financial crimes unit for unusual transaction patterns and suspicious relationships with no associates. The irony wasn't lost on me. My brother-in-law, the golden boy, who'd never shown me anything but polite conditions, was potentially involved in exactly the type of criminal enters I'd spent my career. I should have recused myself from the case immediately, but something dark and determined inside me wanted to see where this led. I wanted to know if the man who looked down on me security job was actually a criminal. So, I buried my personal connection in the paperwork and continued leading the invest. What we uncovered over following months was damning. Derek wasn't just passively involved. He was a key player in a multi-state operation that had moved hundreds of illegal weapons into the hands of various criminal organizations. His was the perfect cover, providing legitimate explanations for international transactions and shipping. He was smart, careful, and had been operating successfully for nearly a decade. The investigation colored 3 weeks ago, with coordinated raids across 4 states, where arrested 18 people, including Derek, and seized enough evidence to guarantee federal convictions for everyone involved. Derek was looking at 25 to life under federal firearms trafficking statutes. That's when Monica called me for the first time in 3 years. Natalie, her voice was shaking. I need your help. I was sitting in my office, AF Phoenix field office, review files. Outside my window, I could see the city sprawling toward the mountains where my family lived their comfortable lives. What's wrong, Monica? It's Derek. He's been arrested. The FBI, they're saying he's involved in some kind of weapons thing. It's all a mistake, obviously, but they won't listen to us. They have lawyers. But Thea, talking about federal prison. Natalie, federal prison. She was crying no, the composed facade cracking under pressure. I know we haven't been close, but you work in security, right? Meba knows someone who can help. Someone Yuho understands how these government people think. I closed my eyes and felt something cold settle in my chest. This was the moment I'd unconsciously been preparing for my entire career. The moment when my family would need exactly what they'd dismissed and mocked. Where he being held? I asked. Some federal facility downtown. The lawyers say he'll be transferred to a detention center pending trial. Natalie, please. I know I haven't been the best sister, but Derek is innocent. He imports furniture and artwork, not weapons. This is all some horrible mistake. Monica had no idea she was talking to the federal agent who'd built the Casathat, would destroy her husband. She had no idea that I knew exactly what Derek had been importing along with those furniture shipments. She had no idea that I'd spent 6 months documenting every transaction, every meeting, every lie he'd told to cover his criminal activities. I'll see what I can do, I said. Thank you, God. Thank you, Mom and Dad. Don't know what to do. They're flying back from their cruciale. Maybe you could come to the house here's a family. We could figure this out together. A family meeting. After 18 years of being treated like the family embarrassment, they wanted me at a family meeting. When I asked tomorrow vanning, 7 o'clock, I'll be there. I spent that night staring at the evidence file spread across my dining table. Photos of with known criminals, financial records showing payments that correspond exactly to weapon shipments. Recorded phone conversations show he discussed, quote, merchandise and special orders in the coded language at weapons traffickers use. He was guilty, unquestionably pretty bleed, but Monica believed in his innocence with the desperate faith of a man whose entire world depended on thought belief. She'd built her perfect life around a criminal, and she had no idea. I arrived at my parents' house the next evening wearing a simple black suit. Nothing that would identify my actual profession, but professional. Enough to command some respect. I hadn't been inside that house in over a decade, but it looked exactly the same. Same furniture, same family photos on the mantel. All of Monica and her achievements, with a few obligatory shots of me from high school. Monica met me at the door. She looked exhausted, her usual perfect composure replaced by obvious stress. She hugged me tightly, something she hadn't done since we were children. Thank you for coming, she whispered. My parents were in the living room, looking older and more frail than he'd expected. My mother stood to embrace, and I could see the worry etched deep in her face. Natalie, my father said, shaking my hand formally. Monica says, you might be able to help with this situation. We sat around the same coffee table where Monica and I had done work as children, the same coffee table where she'd received praise for her straight A's while my B's were met with suggestions for improvement. Tell 'em what you know, I said. Monica launched into a detailed defense of Derek's character and business practices. He was a devoted father, appealer of the community, a man who donated to charity and coached Little League. His import business was completely legitimate, she insisted. He specialized in European furniture and artwork, working with established manufacturers and following all import regulations. My parents nodded along, occasionally adding their own character references. Derek was a good husband, a good provider, a good man who'd been somehow caught up in a federal investigation that had nothing to do with him. Lawyers say the government has some kinder financial evidence, Monica continued, but Derek's always been careful with business records. He says they must have confused his company with Sumian Ilses. I listened to this defense of Armon I knew to be guilty beyond any reasonable doubt. I thought about their recorded conversations where Derek had negotiated prices for assault rifles. I thought about the surveillance sofas of him meeting with Romanian arms dealers. I thought about the bank records showing payments that known weapons sales. What exactly do you want me to do? I asked. You work in security, my father said. You must understand how these federal agencies operate. Could you make some calls? Talk to whoever's in charge. Help them understand they have the wrong person. The wrong person. They wanted to convince the federal government that they had arrested the wrong person in a case I had personally built from the ground up. The lead investigator under Rick's case, I said slowly. What do you know about her? Monica shook her head. The lawyers won't tell us much. Some woman from the ATF, they said. Probably just another bureaucrat trying to make a name for herself by destroying innocent people. Another bureaucrat. Slid, federal agent on a major weapons trafficking case, was just another bureaucrat. I've been thinking, Mimitha said, maybe we could arrange a meeting with this investigator. As a family, we could explain who Derek really is. Sometimes these government people get so focused on paperwork that they forget there are real people involved. She'd probably listen to you, Natalie. Monica added, you speak their language. You understand how the security people think. I speak their language because I am their language. I understand how these security people think because I am the security person they're talking about. What if I told you, I said carefully, that the investigator might not be willing to meet with Derek's family? Then we'll insist, my father said firmly. We'll go through proper channels, contact her supervisors if necessary. Derek is innocent, and someone needs to listen to reason. And what if the investigator has evidence that Derek isn't innocent? Theron went quiet. Monica's face hardened. That's impossible, she said. Wait for evidence they think they have. It's wrong. Derek doesn't know anything about weapons trafficking. The whole idea is absurd, Monica, I said gently. What if it isn't absurd? Are you seriously suggesting that my husband is a criminal? Her voice was rising now, the stress of the past week finally breaking through her controlled exterior. Derek spent 10 years building a legitimate business. He works 16-hour days. He's never even gotten a speeding ticket. People can hide things, I said. Not Derek. She stood up, pacing now. You'd know him, Natalie. You've barely been part of this family for 20 years. You show up here after God knows what kind of life you've been living, and you think you can judge my husband. There it was, the familiar dismissal, the casual cruelty that had driven me away in the first place. What kind of life do y'all think I've been living? Monica, I honestly don't know, she said. Mom says he work in security, but what does that even mean? Security guard at a mall? Some kind of private investigator? You've never told us anything real about your life. Maybe there's a reason for thought, right? Because you're probably embarrassed about whatever dead-end job you ended up with after you quit college. My mother tried to intervene. Monica, please. Natalie is here to help. Is she? Monica turned on me fully now because it sounds like she's here to tell us that Derek deserves whatever happened to him. It sounds like she's taking the side of some government bureaucrat she's never met against her own family. I felt the familiar surge of anger, the same feeling that had sustained me through 18 years of proving myself in a profession that demanded everything and gave back only what you earned. But underneath the anger was something else, a cold, patient satisfaction, because Mom had just handed me the You're right, I said quietly. I have been taking the side of a government bureaucrat you've never met. I stood up and walked to the mantel, looking at the family photos. Monica at her college graduation, beaming in her cap and gown. Monica at wedding, radiant in white lace. Monica with her children, the perfect mother in the perfect family. No pictures of me in my ETIF uniform at graduation from the Federal Academy. No pictures of me receiving commendations for undercover work. No pictures of me being Prometido special agent in charge of the Phoenix field office. I need to tell you, I said, turning back to Facetum about my job. Natalie, my mother started. This really isn't the time. I'm a federal agent, I said simply. I worked for the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. I've been with ETF for 18 years. I currently hold rank of Special Agent in charge of the Phoenix Field Office. The silence he thought followed was complete. I could hear grandfather clock in the hallway ticking, the hum of the air conditioning, the distant sound of traffic on the street outside. You're what? Monica's voice was barely a whisper. I'm the federal agent in charge of investigating weapons trafficking in Arizona, Nevada, and New Mexico. I continued. I lead multi-agency task forces, coordinate with the FBI and on joint cases involving organized crime and illegal firearms trafficking. My father was staring at me as if I just announced I was an alien from My mother had gone completely pale. That's impossible, Monica said. You work in security. You told us you work in security. I do work in security, federal security, national security. But your Monica struggled for words. You dropped out of college. You were washing dishes somewhere. You disappeared. It disappeared into a federal career that he couldn't talk about with civilians. I said I've spent 18 years building cases against criminals who traffic in illegal weapons. I've testified before Congress on firearms legislation. I've worked undercover operations in 3 countries. I pulled out my badge and credentials, setting them on the kafit. The gold shield caught Thelmplite, and the official seal of the Department of Justice seemed to fill the room with its authority, and Derek's gaze. Monica's voice was hollow. Now, Derek's case is my case, I said. I'm the lead investigator. I'm the government bureaucrat you were complaining about. I'm the one who built evidence file that's going to put your husband in federal prison for the next 25 years. Monica sank back into her chair, as if her legs had given out. Mimitha made a small sound somewhere between a gasp and a sob. My father just stared at the badge on the table. You did this, Monica whispered. You destroyed my family. I investigated a criminal enterprise, I corrected. Derek destroyed your family when he decided to traffic illegal weapons through his import business. I just documented the evidence, but you knew it was Derek, and you didn't tell us. I couldn't tell you. Federal investigations are reclassified until arrests are made. Even if I'd wanted to warn you, I would have been breaking the law. You could have recused yourself. You could have had Simeon else handle the case. She was right, of course. I could have stepped aside the moment Derek's name appeared in our investigation. I should have stepped aside. Why didn't you? Mimith asked. Quietly, I looked at each of them. My parents, who'd never understood my choices. My sister, who dismissed my career as some kind of failure. My family, who'd written me off as the disappointing daughter who'd never amount to anything. Because you wanted to know the truth, I said finally, and because I was good at my job, I was the best person to run this investigation. Personal connection or not. Personal vendetta. You mean, Monica said bitterly. No, I said firmly. Professional duty. Derek is a criminal. Monica, he's been trafficking illegal weapons for nearly a decade. He's put assault rifles into the hands of gang members, domestic terrorists, and organized crime. Figures. People have died because of weapons Derek sold to them. That's not true. I walked to my briefcase and pulled out a slim folder. I set it on the coffee table next to my badge. Bank records showing payments from known criminal organizations. Opening the folder, recorded phone conversations where Derek negotiates prices and delivery schedules for illegal weapons. Surveillance photos of Derek meeting with Romanian arms dealers in hotel parking lots. Shipping manifests that list furniture, but contains serial numbers for assault rifles. Monica was shaking her head, but she was looking at evidence. My parents leaned forward, trying to understand what they were seeing. We have 18 months after, I continued. We have recuperating witnesses who've already pled guilty and testified about Derek's role in the operation. We have financial records, physical evidence, and recorded admissions. Derek isn't innocent, Monica. Derek is guilty of federal weapons, trafficking charges that carry mandatory minimum sentences. Myfa picked up one of the photos. It showed Derek shaking hands with a man identified in the caption as Dmitry Vulov, a known international arms dealer. When was this taken? He asked quietly. 14 months ago at a hotel in Las Vegas. Derek told you he was there for a furniture trade show. My mother was screaming now, quiet tears streaming down her face. How could we not know? Because I was good at hiding it, I said. And Becker's, the legitimate import business, proved perfect cover. Derek is intelligent, careful, and organized. He's also a federal criminal who's going to spend the rest of his productive life in prison. Monica stood up suddenly, her face flushed with anger. Get out, Monica. Get out of this house right now. This doesn't change anything, I said calmly. The evidence is the evidence. Derek will be convicted whether you speak to me again or not. You came here knowing, she said, her voice shaking with rage. You sat here and let us beg you for help, knowing that you were Theon who destroyed everything. I came here because you asked me to come. You should have told us immediately. The moment you realized Derek was involved in your investigation, you should have called and warned us. I couldn't do it. It would have been obstruction of justice. Justice. Monica laughed, but there was no humor in it. This is revenge. This is you getting back at the family that never appreciated your choices. I looked at her for a long moment. This woman would never shown me anything but condescension and dismissal. This woman would laughed at my career choice and suggested I was playing dress up. This woman who'd built her perfect life around a criminal and was now blaming me for discovering the truth. Monica, I said quietly. I've spent 18 years serving my country and protecting citizens from criminals exactly like your husband. I've earned every rank, every commendation, every responsibility I've been given. I've built a career thought matters, investigating crimes that destroy communities and save lives. It picked up my badge and returned it to my briefcase. And you're right, I continued. I could have recused myself from Derek's case. It probably should have. But I didn't because I was curious to see if the man were married into this family, and look at now. On my career choices was actually worthy of your respect. I closed the evidence folder and tucked it away. Hewant, I said. Derek is a criminal who's been lying to all of you. He's trafficked weapons that have been used in murders, robberies, and domestic terrorism. He's made millions of dollars helping criminals acquire tools they needed to hurt innocent people. I stood up and slung my briefcase over my shoulder. So, no, Monica, this isn't revenge. This is justice, and the difference between those two things is exactly what I've spent 18 years learning in the career you've spent 18 years mocking. I walked toward the front door, leaving my family sitting in stunned silence around the coffee table where we'd shared so many childhood moments. At the door, I turned it back one last time. Derek will be sentenced in 6 weeks. I said, the mandatory minimum for his crimes is 25 years in federal prison. He'll be eligible for parole when he's 73 years old. I paused, letting that sink in. And Monica, when people ask you what happened to your perfect husband, you can tell them that your security guard sister put him there. The door closed behind me with a soft click, and I walked down the driveway toward my car. Behind me, I could hear voices rising in argument, the sound of my family finally facing the truth about the man they'd welcomed into their perfect world. As I drove away from the house where I'd grown up, feeling invisible and unwanted, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years, complete professional satisfaction. Not because I'd hurt my family, but because I'd done my job with thorough integrity. Derek's conviction would remove a dangerous criminal from the streets and dismantle a trafficking work that had supplied weapons to violent criminals for nearly a decade. The personal vindication was just a bonus. 6 weeks later, I sat in the federal courthouse watching the recency of his sentence. 28 years in federal prison with no possibility of parole. Monica sat in the gallery behind defense table, wearing black and crying quietly. My parents were with her, looking older and more fragile than he'd ever seen them. They didn't acknowledge me, but I knew they saw me sitting in the front row, reserved for law enforcement. I was in my dress uniform wearing the decorations I'd earned over 18 years of federal service. The judge had recognized me during the proceedings, thanking me publicly for the thoroughness of the investigation and the quality of the evidence presentation. After the sentencing, I walked out of the courthouse into the horizon sunshine, feeling lighter than I had in years. My phone was already ringing with calls about the next case, the next investigation, the next opportunity to serve the country that had given me everything my family never could: respect, purpose, and the satisfaction of meaningful work. That evening, I received a single text message from Monica. I hope you're satisfied. I read it twice, then deleted it without responding. Because the truth was, I was satisfied, not because I'd hurt my family, but because I'd finally shown them exactly who I'd become. In the 18 years since I'd walked out their front door as the family disappointment, I've a special agent in charge, Natalie Lawson, and I'd earned every word of that title through dedication, sacrifice, and an unwavering commitment to justice. Monica could keep her perfect house and her social connections and her comfortablies about what success looked like. I had something better, a career tatted work that protected innocent people, and the absolute certainty that he'd never again let anyone make me feel small or worthless or invisible. Vigorel, who'd been dismissed as a dropout playing dress-up, had grown up to become one of the most effective federal agents in the Southwest, and sometimes the most profound revengers, simply becoming everything the people underestimated. You never thought you could